Hi, Lou. Can you see me? Or Commissioner, one of the commissioners, can you see me?
No, I cannot.
Hi, Lou. Can you see me?
Lou's not in here, but is that Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth, it's Emma. We're helping them set up everything.
Commissioner, one of the commissioners can. Oh, I'm Lorado, so I'm in you by.
Thank you.
Can you see me?
No, I cannot.
I see you and I see the puppy
Is that
dog.
in here? You took the agenda down and.
You want both of them up there?
Well, I think that was the agenda, on the screen. But we can hear you. Can you hear us? Yeah,
I can hear you, Commissioner.
Yeah, she has you not showing because she has the agenda on the screen.
No.
Okay, so she's gonna go back to putting the agenda.
But you can't see me, is that right?
No, I can see you.
Oh, you can see me.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, but you're gonna be removed. She's gonna put the agenda back on the screen.
Okay, so you won't be able to see me.
Okay.
Okay. Well, just know I'm here and I can hear you and you can ask me questions.
About minutes. We'll start in about 2 minutes. I don't know if we're gonna have a quorum.
Oh, shoot, you may not have a quorum?
I don't know. We'll just turn it into a work session. Can we do that by law?
No,
Yes,
because
yes,
well,
we
you didn't notice it as a work session.
No, so we just.
This is the lady.
You can
We'll just
meet,
have it as an official meeting. We'll just have to listen.
Madam
We have
Chair,
two guests. We have
you
two
can,
important guests.
Madam Chair, you can meet if you want to, but you can't take action on anything.
No, we're not gonna take any action, just more informational.
Yeah, you won't be
We
able
have no
to.
quorum, so we'll still continue with the meeting, but we're not gonna take
Yeah,
any action.
okay, yeah, because you have an action item on here
Is
to.
it possible for Brian to just chat with us?
Well, we can have a meeting, but we can't take action on the, we can't approve item 9, we have to table
Yeah,
that.
you can't do the minutes, right?
Because we can't, because there's not a quorum. Okay. Is that-
Well, hopefully
here comes
Francisco comes.
Stephanie. Here comes Stephanie.
That's Daisy.
We have a small group this evening.
She still wants to meet.
I had.
Madam Chair, I can't hear you anymore, so the sound is off. Oh,
He's gonna get me in trouble. Forever he's.
We're in between, we're near a weekend.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
On the screen. Instead of.
Eric's DC.
Thank you for.
Oh, absolutely. Our absolute pleasure and privilege to be here.
Well, if we're a small group, and generally we have a few people in the audience, but if we don't have a quorum, we're gonna continue with the meeting, and we're not taking any action other than on minutes. So then we will just table that.
Handing me that food.
I don't know, I have to ask my person on this.
Oh.
So let's go ahead and start.
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you.
Daisy, no.
We have a list of all the-
Just put her right here. Daisy! Oh, my Daisy! Now, is she a voting member or just?
I just say it's not.
She wants to be a voting member.
She just heard everybody.
She'll vote for anything as long as she gets that soon.
Daisy!
She's kind of like entertainment and
Point of
stuff.
order, Daisy.
Yeah.
You want a Daisy?
Okay, we're gonna start. I'm gonna try to give direction on the morning.
Especially a herder.
Okay, so we just said that.
I can hear. I just got a message asking me if I can hear, and I can hear.
Daisy, be nice, be nice, be nice. Be nice.
My friend, come on in, maybe we can sit over here. Yeah, the rest is, we're gonna go ahead and start. Okay,
Commissioner, again, she told me you haven't given her water in 3 days.
She makes me look bad.
She's dying of thirst. She's dying.
Madam,
we're gonna start this, we're being recorded.
Madam Chair, I just got a message asking me if you start as a normal meeting, and yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, Elizabeth.
Yes, ma'am.
Invite me, because I've always had a quorum, and this is kind of.
Even though you don't have a quorum, we still have to call the roll, okay?
Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, 6:05 PM. Welcome to the Espanola Community Development Commission meeting agenda. Is listed, and today is Wednesday, February 8th. And we're going to go ahead and begin our meeting. I want to welcome our guests, but I will do that in just a little bit. So I've called the meeting to order, and now I would ask Lou to call roll call, please.
Madam Chair, you have the Pledge of Allegiance first.
Oh, yes, this would do. I'm going to go ahead and ask the Honorable Commissioner to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
At least, as long as it's not in Spanish, I can do it in English.
No, just.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. And now we will go ahead and have roll call to determine if there's a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Thank you for being here tonight. We're very, very honored to have you attend our meeting. Thank you for making time for us. We're a very small but powerful, impactful commission. Thank you. With that, Madam Chair, Ms. Joanne Salazar.
Present.
Commissioner Francisco Simbana. Let the record show Mr. Simbana is absent. City Councilor Justin Salazar Torres. Let the record show Councilor Justin Salazar is absent. Commissioner Toby Vigil.
Present.
Commissioner Mr. Floyd Archuleta.
Present.
City Councilor Ms. Denise Benavides. Let the record show Councilor Denise Benavides is absent. Madam Chair, you have,
JR.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, Commissioner JR Trujillo. Let the record show Mr. Trujillo is absent. Madam Chair, with the 7 commissioners, 4 are not present. We have 3 present. You do not have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Baker. It's very disappointing. This is the first time we have not had a quorum. However, I understand that we can continue. We have 2 very distinguished guests, and we want to go ahead and have some discussion. So my understanding from guidance is that we can go ahead and have this meeting. We will not take any action. So we're not going to even approve the agenda. We're going to go ahead and table 4. And well, I guess we can't even vote on that. So we're not going to take any action. So having said that, and Elizabeth, you can correct me as I go on, is let's go ahead and I will go to item 5, which is my update.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so every meeting, we always ask the chair and the commissioners present to give us an update. We know that this was going to be a short meeting tonight, but my update is that I had the honor of being asked to, with the mayor and the city, to be part of the Espanola Day discussion, and we're going to have Espanola Day at the Roundhouse on March 1st. And so you will be, many of you here will be invited. And so today we met very briefly just to go ahead and talk about maybe speakers and the agenda and that type of thing. So it was a brief meeting. We're going to meet again next week, but I did want to let people know. And we don't have an agenda, with this because we're trying to talk about who we're going to get on to speak, etc. So I did mention, of course, our governor, the governors from Pueblos, and of course, our land commissioner, of course, our representatives, our legislators, our senator. So just keep that date in mind, March 1st. And you'll get more information and you will be added to the list of invitees. I understand the commissioners from the from this commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission will also be invited to attend. Okay, and then other community organizations are being invited to attend, and we'll have tables there, and it'll be a nice meeting. Okay, so I also wanted to update, I'm not too well versed in this, but since I had taken on the task of trying to work with what the design of the plaza might look like when there's a changes start happening and how the roadways are going to look. I've been trying to get in touch with several of the transportation departments and different groups that are dealing with road paving and infrastructure. So I know that I was invited and I was not able to attend this meeting, but it was from the Northern Pueblos Regional Transportation Plan. They are working with District 5 of the New Mexico Department of Transportation, and it's part of the North Central Economic Development District. So I just want to announce that they have developed a plan which is called the preliminary draft for public review. And they are going to finalize it at their next meeting now in March, but they're giving the public opportunity to look at their plan. And I'm not sure what it all entails, but they would be looking at the plan and they will take public comment through February. Because I believe their meeting is going to be early March. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the plan. I think you can find it on the North Central New Mexico Economic Development District website, but the content is a Mr. Paul Sittig, S-I-T-T-I-G, and his number is 505-356-9694. And so just encouraging everyone to maybe get on that and see how this may impact what is being planned, especially as far as Main Street and all of the areas that we're talking about downtown revitalization is maybe affected. The last item I have for update is I did meet with Lou last week, and we need to get the ordinance, the template on the ordinance for LIDA, and we already started making some changes. So if I can get the template, I can work on that document, and then we'll bring those changes forward to the commission and hopefully get an approval to move it on. I still believe it needs to go to the attorney, but if the next step, since we're not an elected body, is to have the city council look at it first and then send it to legal counsel, then I guess they will do that. So those are my updates. So if there aren't any questions from our group of commissioners here today, go ahead and I'll move the announcements to the commissioners. So who wants to go first?
I guess I can, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And I just have one thing to bring up, and that's the Northern Area Local Workforce Development Board is sponsoring has organized a conference, a workforce conference in Santa Fe. And we had our first day today. We've had several sponsors, the lab. In fact, the director was at the lab at the conference today, and was the keynote speaker. Mr. Leo was there as well, and also the lieutenant governor addressed the group, and it was very well attended. I understand there was 200 plus that were there today, so it's been it was a good day today, and it continues tomorrow till noon. I think the one thing that I wanted to bring up today is the director's announcement today. He addressed, gave an update on the laboratory and the kinds of things that the laboratory is working on. But the one thing that stood out for me was the fact that the lab has established they have a footprint in Santa Fe. They have right around 1,000 employees in Santa Fe already. And the director expressed their desire, or his desire to establish the same kind of a footprint in Espanola, in our communities here. And so I think that that's something that we've talked about, trying to set up, establish our own facilities to be able to meet any requirements that the lab would have to create that presence here in the communities. So again, they're expecting to continue their hiring. They've been doing quite a bit of hiring already. They have, I think it's like 40% of the employees are local, and they have a desire to bring up that number. And again, in the discussion of our workforce, it's the idea of all of us working together and getting people ready for the employment opportunities that we saw. So it was very positive, and I think all the more reasons for us to work hard at, I think we're on the right track.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Yeah, Floyd, if I could just ask you to talk just a bit about the Amos Electric Internet, because I think that's a real important thing as far as the footprint for, the footprint request from the director.
Well, that's one of the things that we definitely need to work on here, and have that connectivity that we don't presently have for the needs that the laboratory has here in terms of broadband. And at this point, Amos Electric Cooperative is working at setting up what they're calling the MSNet to provide broadband to all of our communities that are presently being served by Amos. I think the plan is to start stringing fiber optic cable on the telephone poles, and starting with phase 1, which, but I understand will be the west side of their region, which includes the river to the west from Hernandez down to about the La Cocina area. That's the latest information I have. So, but they're working at doing that. It's the board has given them a go to work at it. And,
Do they have any kind of timeline that they're looking at, or anything that you know of?
not that I know of.
Okay.
I had heard that they were shooting for March to start stringing that fiber optic cable, but I don't know that's that the timeline is going to be met at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Beal.
Thank you. So my update, I've got 3 things I'm kind of working on, or one's tailing off. So we met with President Valderas on the phone. Was it 2 weeks ago? Or was it last week?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, it's just kind of running together here, so I'm sorry. And he had some comments that he wanted to capture in this resolution. And just for members of the audience, the resolution is essentially City of Espanola wants to work with Northern New Mexico College to reach out to LANL for jobs and other collaboration opportunities. So we wanted to get that presented to the city council so they could vote on it, and essentially be kind of a collaborative effort with Northern New Mexico College with President Valderas behind it. So drafted a resolution, submitted it for comment, and we're waiting to hear from President Valderas. So I'm not sure where that's at, but I sent an email to Amy Pena, his executive administrator, a follow-up just before I came to the meeting.
Thank you.
Second was in our conversation with President Valderas. He asked for a potential list of types of opportunities. And I sent him a list that I was thinking of, that I had been discussing. And I think we have someone from our audience here, agenda, Brian DeAndrea, to talk about one item for sure. Essentially, Northern New Mexico College and City of Northern New Mexico College and LANL have signed a mentor protege partnership agreement. And it has a list of several projects on it over 3 years. And asked Amy to reach out to Brian and vice versa to see if we could get a little bit of discussion going on that. So that would be one of the first things I would propose to President Valderas. And then the last item was just an update. I was trying to figure out how to see if we could get some money for brownfields money to work on the Rio Valley Ford dealership lot to do some recovery. And kind of got stuck there because essentially it's still under the city of Espanola until, I think if the ECDC can somehow get a commission status of 5013 or 5031, status, C status, then it would open up the opportunity to try to go work on that property. We believe that property is central to the development of the downtown area. It's right at the cornerstone. Another effort as well is we're trying to broker a little bit of an exchange with Los Alamos County representatives and try to figure out how we can push through maybe a proposal at the legislature to get some money to realign the intersection down at the corner there, because it's kind of hard to go from the downtown area to the park and back and forth. You have to cross through 2 or 3 intersections just to go across there. So that was very important to the mayor. We're trying to get some folks together to discuss that, and we'll see how that goes. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just for a further update, the issue with the Brownsfield money, and just to inform the audience that there had been discussion presented to us that there may be an opportunity for the city to begin looking at a 501c3 kind of economic development piece. And I guess other cities have done this, so that may take a while, but I've also mentioned to the mayor that there may be opportunities to find other funding. I know you've been looking for that, to
Yeah.
try to clean it up, because one of their thoughts was we'll sell it because there was not due diligence when they bought it from the city, just for the audience knows. They did not, the city at that time, many years ago, did not do the due diligence to, when they purchased the Hunter Forest. So because of that, the city's not eligible for the Brownsfield funds to go in and clean up all the kind of waste, toxic waste that they have found. So that's why we're having this discussion, because that property gives us so much opportunity with the city to bring forward what we're trying to do for downtown revitalization, for either some kind of, building, business, convention, whatever it may end up being. And that's a very good piece of property. So that's just an FYI for the audience. And I know
Right.
Toby knows more about the Brownsfield money than I had ever known about, but he's giving us very good information. So let's kind of see how those two kind of.
If I could add, my daytime job, I work at N3B, who does a lot of environmental restoration, remediation work on Los Alamos County. So I was willing to try to get some folks that I work with and myself to work on any proposal opportunities that come available. So right now, I'm just kind of trying to find an opportunity to make a proposal for some funding, but I'm striking out and seeing how that goes.
Yeah,
going
it's
forward.
a little crazy. So with regard to the way we want to have the street look, include me in that, because we're part of that I think you're part of my subcommittee. We have subcommittees. So I'll give you the information I shared just now earlier, of course. And I know that the mayor has told me the Department of Transportation has kind of had a plan. So we kind of need to go back to the drawing board there and see what were you thinking? Because now it seems to me every time I turn around and looking at these kinds of plans that were kind of in existence before COVID, they're now starting to bump them up and make them priorities. So we kind of have to be on top of that discussion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, if I may just quickly, I just remembered that I should probably update everyone here tonight about this initiative that the RDC has for a business connectivity event that they're planning for Thursday, February 23rd from 8:30 to noon at the Abbey Rural Event Center. And they have, they're planning on making opportunities for people to connect their businesses to resources. It's a business connectivity event with lots of opportunities and options that they would like to share for people. And so,
Maybe Luke could make copies and pass that out.
yeah, that's, so if people are interested
Oh, here
in
it is.
having help, I think we should help spread the word about that.
Thank you so much. Okay, so having said that, I think we're going to move forward because we have some really good discussion to have with our two guests. And I just want to recognize them again, the Honorable Stephanie Garcia Richards and Mr. Brian De Andrea. And we have the Honorable Stephanie Garcia Richards, the Land Commissioner, on first. So how would you like to do now to bring?
Madam Chair, you have public comments first.
Okay, yeah, I'm not even watching my agenda.
Just keep it sharp.
Usually I'm the one sorry. Okay, well, public, they should have signed up. Has anybody signed up for public comment? Oh, good, thank you. I recognize Mr. Joe Salazar.
Good evening, everybody, Madam Chair, Commissioners, guests.
Mr. Salazar,
Yes, ma'am.
for the record, I'm Elizabeth, I'm the stenographer. For the record, would you state your name and address, please?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Joe Salazar. I live on 1125 Calle Milagro here in Espanola, New Mexico.
And is your last name spelled ASAD?
No, Salazar.
Oh, Salazar, I'm sorry, I thought you said Assad.
This is my husband. I recognize Mr. Joe Salazar.
I'm so sorry, I know how to spell Salazar, I apologize.
Salazar is the way it's pronounced here in northern New Mexico, okay?
Sorry.
No problem. Okay, may I continue?
Yes, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I just want to voice a concern, it's lack of core. Here, I've met several times with Mr. Vigil, David Vigil, or Trujillo, I'm sorry, Mr. Trujillo. Anyway, seeing him at the legislature, trying to push, say, community, we have opportunities that can come to our community if we work together. But, we have a meeting like this, we have a land commissioner here taking her time to come and address this group and address the community. But, nobody's here. And one of the things that's lacking, maybe the commission can talk to the mayor of, putting out a notice about these type of meetings in the newspaper and the radio and other methods. I tried to convince a lot of people to come here tonight. I got zero response. In fact, I had one coming and he decided, no, it's not worth my trouble because people don't know what we're talking about. What is going on? Some people don't even know that this commission exists. And I would say it's a lot of people that don't know this commission exists. I think, if we want to, be partners with Los Alamos, there's an article in the paper written by one of our representatives today talking about this. But yet there's, no lack of participation. There's a lot of lack of participation. So if I could say, my comment is, let's put out a notice. Let's tell, especially our elected officials that are on this board that are not here. That's sad. That's what we're here for, to try to bring up our community. I'm tired of going to the legislature for, we, or Mr. Archuleta, can be the joke of the state. And, that's why we are, because we can't manage to bring people to come and meet and talk about an important issue. So those are my comments. I'm sorry, it might sound a little frustrating, but I do get frustrated. I wasn't even born in this community, but I love this community and I serve it. So if we can get more participation, remind our counselors, hey, this are your duties. Show up. If you can't, give an excuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salazar.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Salazar is also a commissioner with planning and zoning. So I just want to mention that for the record. So, he also has his meetings and we do all need to work together. So I do agree with, how do we get the word out? I know it is put on the city's website, but I think the idea of maybe trying, Lou, to even not just for this commission, but for other like planning and zoning, because I've gone to those and usually the ones that show up are the ones that want variance or
Madam
something.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
for public comment, you're not allowed to
I'm not
respond.
allowed to speak. I am really blowing this up and I've done this so many years in my life. Thank you, Elizabeth, for reminding me. Okay, you're right. I'm not supposed to comment and I did so because that's my husband. Okay. All right, let's move on then.
Well, you scored points for the home front.
47 years, yeah, I bet it doesn't score those points, man. You might leave me tomorrow.
I apologize, but that's
all
the
right.
rule.
You reminded me correctly. I appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on and we will recognize Lou asking our honorable guest to give us a discussion and information.
You can pass those out.
Madam Chair.
I think I'm still the chair of the same room, yeah.
And for your stenographer, I'm Stephanie Garcia Richard, I'm the State Land Commissioner.
Thank you.
I am not a resident of Espanola, but I am a resident of Rio Grande County. I live just north of town. But I consider this to be my community as well, just because my home is not here. I do all of my shopping here. We eat here, we purchase here, we travel through, and you know, this is our home. And so I just want to echo the thoughts that you heard during the public comment, that it's very frustrating. In fact, it saddens me to see sometimes the reputation that Espanola has, and because there's such historic significance to this area, to this place in particular, the original capital, and a lot of cultural significance as well. So historic significance, traditional significance, cultural significance. And I feel like a lot of that is overlooked, misunderstood, and downplayed sometimes in some of our discussions about our community. And that is very sad to me. So I was very happy, to hear that the mayor had convened this commission. That's the first thing. I think folks that are spending their time really looking at opportunity, development, how do we lift up this community is ideal. And so I just want to thank you for your service in that capacity. Because in all of my time in working in politics and working for government, I know that it's sometimes a thankless job. And so I just want to thank you all for your service in that capacity on behalf of our beloved community, which, you know, as this flyer says, is the heart of northern New Mexico. I think we should even just strike out northern. So cover your ears, because she's not from here. And just call it the heart of New Mexico. I mean, truly, this is like some of the most historic area in our state. So with all of that being said, Madam Chair, the reason that probably this even came to be that I was asked to come and present to you is because I was having a conversation with Commissioner Archuleta, in which I talked about the fact that there are state land parcels in the vicinity, so not right within the city boundaries, but in the vicinity of the city. So if you take a look at this map that I've shown you here, basically you have 3 land status, or 4 land statuses, let's say 4 land statuses. So the bright blue, real clear, that's state land. The sort of like the yellowish kind of color, and it's kind of hard to see because there's 2 colors that look very similar. One is BLM, the other is tribal, and then all of the middle area there is that's either private or tribal property there. So right in the middle, basically the heart of the city is mostly tribal and private. So I do know that with a lot of the proposals that Espanola has had over the years, and I've been, you know, I haven't lived in Rio Grande County continuously for all of that time, but we've been in and out of this county. My husband actually grew up here. He's the executive director of the Northern Rio Grande Heritage Area. The difficulty lies in the multiple jurisdictions governing this particular area. And if the land office can lend any kind of assistance, support with the state land we have, we stand ready to do so. And what I mean is this, and I'll just preface these comments by saying, I have not reached out to any tribe within the vicinity of this area with this offer, but there is a possibility of land exchanges. And if there is a tribe that is interested in exchanging for some of this state land, exchanging some of the land that they would like to give up in conveyance, that could potentially be a development opportunity for the city of Espanola and or the county. We are able to undertake 40-year economic development leases with the city. And we have partnered with City of Gallup, County of McKinley, City of Albuquerque, County of Bernalillo, City of Las Cruces, on these large developments that have become manufacturing hubs. They've become affordable housing. They've become film studios. And as we see our cities start to transition away from older forms of development and economic development, they're using the state land in their area for that development. Because you can get a 40-year lease for not a lot of cash from the city's perspective, and then the city starts to develop that and attract tenants, attract folks that want to develop, say, manufacturing, say, housing. So some of these opportunities that Commissioner Vigil was talking about, state land would be perfect location for that. Now you can see that the state land is not within the city limits, but I do know that there are tribes interested in some of the land that we have here. So, you know, to the extent that we can entertain exchanges, that might benefit the development and the future development of the city. So that's the reason I'm here today, Madam Chair. This map is not ideal because, well, it doesn't show really in depth the city itself, but on the website, and we did not put the website on here, but I do have cards and, oh, I forgot, see, I always do this. I need a reminder at the beginning of my speech to introduce my staff and recognize my staff.
Maybe your staff should be doing that.
So Director of Constituent Services, Francesca De Palma is here with me. She has cards, I have cards, and on our website, we actually have GIS maps that are interactive.
I was going to mention.
Right, so you can go on, you can click on a particular area, you can see what the land status is, you can see whether or not we have leases there, and that's really what I'm here to kind of advertise to you all.
So if I may, so on these, can you define what the surface and subsurface means?
Yeah, so what that means is that the minerals, so when you talk about land ownership, there are two sort of layers of land ownership. You can develop underneath the ground. So like if you're mining for sand and gravel, if you're mining for oil and gas, that is subsurface. So that's what that term means.
Okay.
So we don't actually own the surface of those areas, we only own the minerals.
Okay.
Now on the blue is where we own both.
Okay.
So the blue is really where you should be looking.
That's what I thought I had to concentrate. Okay, thank you. Okay.
So Madam Chair, I can entertain any kind of question, or if someone wants me to sort of explain in more detail anything that I've covered, I'm very happy to do that. Obviously, this is just an introductory sort of, you know, meeting to get to know some of the opportunities that state land can afford for the community. And like I said, we would be happy to set up anything further.
That's wonderful. I thank you for being here and I welcome you. Thank you also. I think there are some opportunities. I know you mentioned earlier that you're looking at maybe some exchanges with other, like maybe tribal property, but you have not yet, of course, gone to them. I think you mentioned that to me when I met Simon last week. But is that something that maybe you would suggest? Two things. I want to look at this loose team being able to go into the GIS mapping and kind of see where you show up in what parts of the city. That might be helpful for us. And then secondly, would it be wise to entertain having some kind of meeting after you present maybe some of your ideas, when you're ready to do that, to the tribal communities and to the governors there, and then see if maybe this is something that we want to proceed collectively in a discussion, or what would you suggest in terms of maybe some of the next steps?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's up to my office to make that first connection with
Right.
tribal leadership.
Right.
And so I think once that has been established, we can chat about sort of what next steps would be.
So in the meantime, we could look at the GIS mapping.
That's exactly what I would.
And then kind of just have our own discussion, but we know you'll need to open up those doors down the road if that's what your office chooses to do, or you choose to do. And then we will be well aware of maybe where some of these places are, and maybe it's also a discussion for county.
Yeah, it's not just for one entity,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, I think there's an opportunity here for many different governments. So I absolutely would encourage you to look at the online map. But then also, we could get you, some of what the terms are in those economic development leases. I was talking about some examples of what other communities have done. Because obviously, to develop out those areas, you want to sublease that to other lessees. You want to attract businesses to come, to where the land base is. And so, we can put you in touch with folks who have already done that in their communities, who are just starting that journey, to share with you, what they've been through. But I think a body like this is kind of a perfect place to talk about development.
Yeah, that's one of our charges for those of us that are really wanting to push that. So I'm gonna not ask so many questions right now, and leave it to the commissioners to go ahead and continue with some questions. If I have any more, I'll get back to mine. The Commissioner,
Thank you, Madam
Vice
Chair.
Chair.
And
Vice Chair.
thank you, Commissioner, for being here with us again tonight. But I think this is a really good opportunity for us to really start looking at and seeing where we can benefit from it, and working together with some of the other local governments. I guess the question I was gonna ask you was, some of these other places that have already done this, what kinds of businesses or what kinds of uses have they used?
So, City of Albuquerque has a lease with us up at Mesa del Sol, and that's primarily film oriented.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Film.
Oh, okay.
So Netflix already had a studio there. They came to the city and they were interested in the state land, so the city had no jurisdiction over the land, but they were interested in the state land that's like right next to their studio. And they're like, we're expanding our filming here, we're expanding series here, we need more land. Could you help us talk with the state? And so we did this sort of like almost like a three-way deal where the city is leasing that land from us. And then they are subleasing it to Netflix. Okay. Gallup is a perfect example, because Gallup right now is facing the shutdown of their Espanola coal-fired power plant. That is going to be hugely impactful to their workforce. Hundreds of jobs will be lost when that thing shuts off for good. So there's two plants, two towers, and one is in the process of being shut down. The other one is set to be. And so Gallup is trying to position themselves with the I-40 going right through there for some diversification of their economy. They're using the state land that's in their vicinity to build another exit from the 40, so another access point from the 40 that will enter into an entire area that's going to be manufacturing based, light manufacturing based. So those are a couple of examples.
Well, Commissioner, Madam Chair, one of the things that I was involved with when I was a member of the City Council was the search for a regional landfill. And as you know, these kinds of projects get very controversial in the communities. But we ended up finally giving in to some of the properties that were adjacent to the areas that we were looking at, simply because of that. And we ended up contracting, and here we're having the situation that exists right now with the solid waste management, with the present agreement that we have. So in conversation with the city manager, I know that the city is looking for some sort of a remedy or something that will take care of our solid waste problems. And I don't know if those kinds of projects would fall into the category, or are you limited to the kinds of projects that,
So we actually already have some solid waste on state land. It's not something that, you know, I understand it's a need for communities and we are here to help communities solve problems. It has to make economic sense for us. That's really what it comes down to. I should have started out by letting you all know I'm a statewide constitutional officer. My job, my number one job, is to make money for New Mexico's public schools and universities. That's my job. And what we've done is try to be real creative about it, because last year we made $2 billion from oil and gas development. But we all know that oil and gas is a finite resource. It's not going to be with us forever. So after the oil fields run dry, what are we going to do? And because I'm a public school teacher and I know the importance of the dollars I make in my office to a classroom, I am trying every which way to try and get more money from different sources into the office. And that's the reason I'm having these meetings. That's the reason I travel the state, to talk to communities about their state land in their area. In fact, we just distributed maps to legislators today, showing the state land in their area, saying, hey, come partner with us, develop the state land in your area to the betterment of your community and the state land office. So first and foremost, we look at, is it financially viable? And with something like a landfill, we would have to talk about the environmental cost of that. Yeah, and just dollars and cents, does it pencil out or not?
I have
Thank
a
you.
question, if I may, before I go to Commissioner Vito. You said, that, okay, so an entity leases from you, what's you generally charge? Does it depend on the square footage or the mileage of the property, or what's kind of like this lease money going to?
Right, so it's a very basic rental. And the terms are not exorbitant. I mean, you can imagine that Gallup, New Mexico doesn't have a lot of extra cash, but to them, it made sense to lease state land. In fact, to them, I think it even made more sense than to lease private land. So that base rental is something that the governments have to bear, yes. But then you get to charge your sublessees, you get a percentage, you can design that lease however you want. I mean, the way that Albuquerque did it with Netflix is they're taking a percentage of whatever the profits are.
Proceeds, yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Vito?
Yeah, thank you for coming. I wanted to just kind of throw out some things that I come across in the past, some ideas. I knew the president of Northern 2 presidents ago, Rick Bailey, fairly well, worked with him on several projects. And he was talking about some stuff he had done, was able to do, and some other ideas that he had going forward. So one thing that he got done was he took a plot of land next to Northern New Mexico College and turned it into a solar farm.
Out in Oviedo.
Yeah, out in Oviedo, and he brokered agreement between it was Guzman Energy, Kit Carson, and themselves, and they got free power for El Rito and free high-speed internet in exchange for all of that. A couple of other projects he's working on that he wasn't able to complete because he ended up leaving for another job was he was looking at converting the gymnasium at El Rito into a film studio with Netflix. That's one project that he wasn't able to finish up, but he started discussions. And then another project he was working on is Northern ended up with some land over near El Vado Lake. There used to be an old Navy radar station or something. It was Navy or Army or they needed to clean it up because there's asbestos contamination. But he was trying to work on a deal where he either swap that land or put another solar array on top of it. So just wanted to mention those to you because the theme I see here, the opportunity is getting some land finding an electrical co-op that's willing to partner with you and they can sell the power. And finding a company that's willing to build upon that, because he made it work. It is for Taos County, not necessarily Rio Arriba. But that seems like an opportunity in New Mexico, because, and he had even told me that the lab was anxious to buy the power off that grid. So just wanted to mention a
Other
few things
possibilities,
that
yeah.
I've come across.
Yeah.
That's just my.
I appreciate that, and let me just sort of end by saying that even if a project is not directly impacting state trust land, the blue on this map, I am very happy and willing to help advocate. You know, there's always sort of an avenue that, like someone said, working together. I mean, that's the only way we're going to do any of this is regionalization, is working together, is cooperation. And so I'm happy to, you know, chat with the folks in Northern. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's 2 presidents ago, obviously, so, but I just wanted to mention
Yeah,
that.
I knew Dr. Bailey very well. I was sad to see him go. I mean, obviously we couldn't keep him forever, but he really did some great work
He
here.
did almost too good of a job because he got noticed.
No, he left shoes too large to
Especially
fill.
they-
I think President Valderas
Yeah.
is up for the task, so, yeah.
So one other request is, as I hinted, looking at you, was really anxious to try to find monies to rehabilitate the Ford dealership.
Yeah, as you were sitting there, I was kind of thinking of some ideas that have popped into my mind, so let me kind of stew on that a little
Okay.
bit, and I can even email you some of that.
Thank you. That's all, thank you.
You don't mind,
Oh, actually, so Francesca used to be in a congressional office.
yes, so I worked with Senator Udall and the Congressman Leonard Fernandez's office. So the delegation, and I don't know if you've reached out to them yet, but the delegation.
I'm too small of a.
No, you're not. This is for any constituent in the state of New Mexico. The delegation does have one staffer in DC whose sole job is to search for grants for New Mexicans.
Excellent.
And so if you reach out, it doesn't matter whose office, she works for everybody. And they'll ask you to kind of write what you're looking for, and she'll look through and see if there's any grant money that's coming available.
Do you have a contact?
Yeah, what's her name? I'm gonna give you my card.
Okay.
And then I'll
And then
give,
I
and then
email
I'll, and then I'll put you in touch
Thank you.
with,
Thank
Congressman. Sure.
Thank you,
That's
excellent.
wonderful news, that's great news, because that's one thing I did mention
Yeah, I was like,
earlier, I said,
as soon as he said, I was like, I have to talk to you.
there may
Thank
be
you.
other grants, you know, so don't just feel like you have to sell and then let the
Yeah, I just don't know where to
figure out
look.
how they're gonna clean
But
it up.
I'm
because-
willing to go try.
Yeah, and it might not be anything, but they can at least start looking, and that's helpful.
Yeah, nothing venture, nothing gain.
Please let us know,
Yes.
and we'll reach out to Teresa and Jorge and who else we need to reach out to. So thank you for that information. Excuse me. Anything else?
No, like I said, let this be kind of the introductory meeting.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. I'm really happy that you were able to join us. I know you have a busy schedule.
Well, with the legislature in session, it seems even busier now,
Yeah,
so we're very happy to.
So thank you for being here. And I think just wrapping up, we're going to try to get the information, look at your GIS mapping so that we can get something from Lou's team on maybe where these are.
Yeah, and be
And
in
the
touch
smaller-
if you have any questions on the map, if you want specific GIS layers that aren't available there, like let us know what you want. Okay?
So I'm sorry, Lou, in a sense, I'm giving you an assignment. That's something that we need to do. And then that way, when Commissioner is ready to come back and maybe give us an update on some of these other options that you're going to be dealing with, that you can alert us, and then we can maybe see if we can get more discussion going. So again, I appreciate you and your staff person coming. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Palma, for being here, and all the information. I mean, it's like they say, those decisions are made by those that show up.
Show up,
right?
that's
So
right.
You've got some good
That's right.
information, and I think a lot of the doers on this commission are gonna start moving forward. Just a lot
I
of
think it's
ideas.
exciting times for
Thank
us,
you.
so yeah.
Okay,
all right.
please let us know how we can support you.
Yes, we can support.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you
This
so
will be the
much.
first of several, many meetings.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, hopefully. Okay, awesome.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you.
Thank you,
Safe
Commissioner.
travels, both.
All right.
Coming back. Thank you for stopping in and joining us tonight.
Oh, I don't know if people wanted my cards too. My cards are not as valuable.
Yes, I'd like to have
as
some.
yours.
See, I told you to for your car.
All right, I'm just gonna give you the stack and you
Oh, okay.
just take one and pass.
But you just.
Yeah, we got a key card.
Oh, no, this is.
That's a key card. A key card is Francesca.
I thought you were giving me yours. I have Francesca's.
Oh.
Oh, did you give him mine?
You gave them all of ours.
I have mine, don't worry. And
Joe,
sorry, I did not mean to leave your ticket. I have
She had that word mine.
Thank you.
You got two different colors each of them.
Don't.
I made you look.
I thought it was me, I was like, what?
That's the dog, Daisy. Thank you again.
Thank you guys for having us.
Say hi to her.
He's in DC right now.
Is he?
Yes.
I texted him last night.
All kinds of things going on.
He's a nice one in the back.
He's a nice
one.
Nice, Steph. Be
Thank
careful.
you.
My
Thank you, take care. Thank you again. Okay, so having that presentation with lots of good information, let's go ahead and move on to our second very special guest, Mr. Brian DeAndrea, President of TechSource. And here on the agenda, it says TechSource is a small business subcontractor on the Triad Management contract for land. So you'll explain all that, won't you?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. You have the floor.
Madam Chairman, thank you, Commissioners. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much.
Actually surprised to be invited, Cody.
I did my best to.
I've held a couple of meetings. I've been honored to be to address the mayor a couple of times. I guess from there, we got to know him. Toby's been involved with this, but I have to do a disclaimer. TechSource is a member of the management team for the lab, but I do not speak for the lab. Tom Mason speaks for the lab. Okay, so what I am is I'm a very close observer. I'm engaged with them every day. More importantly, our company reaches into Washington, DC. So I have a pretty good appreciation of what the entire chain of events occurs before this lab does something. And I looked at this opportunity to speak to you as to communicate that this is an unprecedented opportunity for Espanola. And Espanola has been in a mix of discussion for the 4 years that we've been part of this management team. What is that unprecedented? In the past, the historic approach that the lab has been allowed to do has been limited socioeconomic grants, engagements, things that didn't really manifest themselves into long-term relationships to become part of the mission. Many of the residents of Espanola are absolutely. Driving over here, I thought I was going to be late because I was behind all those residents coming back home. But what is unprecedented is they are looking for people to contribute to their mission, people, organizations, and resources. Here's what's unprecedented. The past 20 or 30 years, there are some people, their entire careers have been done in the post-Cold War environment where the lab's mission seemed to be on hold, but that has changed. What a year and a half does, right? And so we have an unprecedented alignment that has occurred that both sides of the aisle at Congress are in agreement that this lab mission, along with the other labs, needs to be rejuvenated, recapitalized, expanded, and that's happening. And the reason that's so important is because anything that's going to occur, you're going to want to know, is this a flash in the pan? Is it going to go away in 6 months or 12 months? Or is this something that's really worth our engagement because it's going to be long-term? Well, there are no guarantees in life, but when you look at what Congress has communicated, well, let's start all the way at the top, the geopolitical situation that drives this mission, what Congress has been responding for the past 4 years, and then what the administration has done unprecedented about 4 months ago. You're sitting there and it's flowed into the lab. This is an opportunity to engage in that laboratory mission as a community. Now, what the budget speaks for what Congress is thinking, and both, like I said, both sides of the aisle are. This is one of those few areas they're in agreement. and it keeps moving forward. What the administration has done, the administrator's name is Jill Ruby, and her staff, they have engaged in a program, an initiative called Enhanced Mission Delivery. And what they're doing is they're trying to reinvigorate all the options to get the mission done. Find those barriers that stop the mission from getting removed. That's going to be flowing down. And then what the lab has been doing is they've been communicating all these needs they have. And they're very sincere. And that message has not changed for 4 years. And now the communities are now engaging. A meeting like this is a community standing up saying, what can we do here? Yeah, we're interested in the economic development, but the part of that is the true like long-term relationship is, can we engage in that mission? And so the approach I've been expressing to the mayor, and I've been expressing to the college before the latest president, we're going to meet with him, was how do we turn this into an us or a we? How can we help you get this all done? And that is what's resonating, is they have mission needs. And so your expression to them is what can the time tested one of what can you do for us? But what is we can do for each other is what the message needs to be. That's my observation. And it appears to be resonating. I don't know if you're aware of the Pueblo Alliance. That's a new company that stood up with a couple of Pueblos and now includes 4 Pueblos, and it's going to 5 of being all, and now there's a strategic initiative for them to help engage the region. That's just one example of that. There is a big however. Big however is there are lots of rules. It is not an unconstrained environment. It's not we can do anything, but we can't do everything. They have a lot of boundaries that must be maintained. And so that's where this becomes difficult, is how do we engage with them and help them address those boundaries,
You
or
see the
help them.
lab, how do we engage with the lab? or-
With the lab, yeah, with how do you, in this mission, that's what I'm speaking to, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. And so we have to be realistic that they do have these boundaries. It has to be well thought through, and it has to be focused. Those boundaries can be what business relationships they can have, what are the administrative process they have to go through to talk to their agency, what are the regulatory environment they have to meet, what are the political environments they have to accommodate. So it's not simple by any means. But they are, like I mentioned, their message is consistent and clear, and is not expected to go away, is they need light lab space. They need administrative and business offices. They need places for their the increasing workforce to live. They need laydown yards for construction. They need warehousing. They need park and ride arrangements. It's been the same story for 4 years, and they're still in need of them because there's been, in the big scale of things, there hasn't been a big a solution brought to them yet. And so how do you, since it's consistent and since it's very real, what can the city of Espanola do in that area? Probably very lot. A very lot, that's not really a sentence, is it? How about a lot?
There you go.
Very much,
That's a lot
and
closer.
a lot.
That's a lot closer.
That's right. And they also need services, everything from construction and food services and warehousing support and all that. So when you line it all up, it's an unprecedented opportunity. This doesn't come frequently. And some people are still not believing it. We're 4 years into it, and that message hasn't stopped. I don't know how long you have to get into this before you start believing that things have changed. The mission has changed, the need has changed, and now the opportunity to change the relationship is before you.
So how does TechSource come into that picture with the lab and the community?
I am basically an advisor to all. We are part of that management team. I live in White Rock. Many of my employees live down in the valley. And part of my role has been the realities of what the community can do. Because they've been constrained before, and now the mission need is driving them to open I call open the aperture like a camera, open the aperture to consider many more things. So what I have been doing, I was in the middle of establishing the idea of approaching the Pueblo Alliance. That was a role I had on the capture team for the contract. I was involved in helping that mentor-protege agreement get into place. And that's technically an agreement between this college and the Department of Energy, not between them and the lab. It's for the lab. So it's unique. What's unique? It's the first time it's ever been done. We were even surprised on that. The agency said, hey, this is the first time we've ever had one of these. We really want to watch and make sure it goes well. And another thing that has not been realized is because you have that mentor-protege agreement, you now can reach the entire Department of Energy complex to take advantage of. It's not just constrained to this laboratory. So it's a very powerful agreement, but, and so I've been involved in those, both as a part of the team and as a member of the community, just desiring to help them get their mission done. So I guess the final comments I would make, and I'd love to entertain questions, is the laboratory is receptive. I think Commissioner Archuleta, you probably heard Director Mason say that today. I mean, he's asking for help with his workforce and so forth. They're receptive, but I would highly encourage my personal observation. You have to put it in terms of their mission getting done and not we're out here, what can you give us? Because that has changed. That's where the big shift has happened. And engage now in that mission. The reason we're talking to you is we know you have mission needs. We want to engage in it, and it becomes long-term. So back to the regulatory, the administrative barriers and so forth. I don't know if you've ever seen a drawing where they call it the Valley of Death. You have one need on the left, and you have the solution on the right, but nobody knows how to get there. And that's where we are. The laboratory has all these needs of which I've articulated, and probably more. I want to get their official word. And you have this community over here going, hey, wait a minute, we're willing to engage in this, but how? That's the problem, is the how. They're bridging that valley of death on these efforts. And that's where the conversation should, in my humble opinion, needs to be, because they're asking and you have an opportunity to engage with them. But there's always a big but with these things, right? I would approach it with urgency, because some of the politics is fickle. If there's a bump in the road, the agency could change, make it more constrained. You just don't know. So it's not something that you can take 2 to 3 years to engage. It's something that at least some form of plan, maybe for lack of anything, needs to be developed, and start talking to them and it has to be multifaceted. Where's the development money going to come from? If you find out, here's an example, if you find out from them, well, we can't do this because, and that because is a regulatory requirement or a political requirement or something, well, they will never get into the business of asking for political engagement. That they're not allowed. That's not how they're wired. You folks, this is a political group. This is what you do. Just like Commissioner Garcia said, it's politics. And so, can the state help? Can congressional? That's something you'll have to determine on your own, and maybe that breaks it open to healthy engagement. So
That would be wonderful to also get their support. Before I open is there anything else
no, I've spoken too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it in Commissioner Vehill's face. He's talking too much.
He's learned my.
We've known each other too long. It's too dangerous. And then on top of the closest one sitting to them, so.
That's why I have 2 minutes for the
Yeah.
updates, because he's half an hour.
You are a wise person.
So I'm going to ask the first set of questions, Commissioner Veal, if I may. So I just kind of want to get a sense of understanding a little bit of what I've learned or what I've learned from Commissioner Behill and talking to other people up at the lab and different places is, okay, so tech source, you say you're part of the management team.
Mhm.
You're there to engage and try to, bring some of these things to fruition.
Yes.
Possibly. So is there a certain place on either your website, Lano website, that kind of outlines what, you've mentioned some, but I think the community would like to know, I might own a business office, that's vacant, maybe I can, make it up to standard with whatever they might want, because you said you wanted needed some space, we have all these needs, we talked about, what could be done with even the old Valencia building, a place which is not part of the city, doesn't own it, but I mean, it's just, could that be something that Lano could use? Is there a place that we can look at to get more information? And then second to that is, as these things come to fruition or people start engaging, whether it's a private business or the city or the county or collectively, where would we find the funding? I mean, the funding, does the request go to tech source, to the lab, and then the funding comes down to Department of Energy, or there's a lot of little intricacies there, I think, that people are kind of confused about.
That is the fundamental
Yeah.
challenge, is I would discourage approaching it with a singular idea of approach the lab for funding. It's possible, it could be one of the contributing factors, but approaching them with, hey, we have a business that could support your warehousing, and let them create that path to that. Or you using, like was suggested earlier, engage, let's pretend, pretend for a moment, the Ford dealership needs to be rehabilitated. You see a need that solves for the lab. Approaching the congressional delegation is there economic development grants out there that we can do to refurbish that, because then we engage the lab. The day of just approaching the lab and send a check, they're highly constrained. They have rules that they didn't make them up themselves, that the days of that being the singular way to get things done is probably not the best way to approach this. Because what we're also talking about is not the here and now. Yeah, they have needs, but you're trying to engage that this exists for 2 decades, 3 decades. And that would come from a value proposition to the mission. That if we do this, this, and this, and we gather these together, whatever that is, that we can have this, office building built here, and you'll occupy it. It's complex.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. I wish it was, but it's not that simple. Maybe it was that simple back in the Manhattan era, urgency of a world war, but I don't think.
And as you said, as you mentioned, and I think Commissioner Behill could attest that it's really, what are their needs and how do you engage in it? Rather than what are our needs and how do you help us?
Exactly.
I think that's kind of the old way communities think.
Right.
When it comes to funding or any kind of resource for, business or something. So
Right.
I'm just gonna make a comment, I'm gonna open it up to everybody. I understand a little bit about the protege, which I think you're gonna engage Hector, President Valdes with perhaps, and I thought it was a really excellent package from what I could read and see. So I just hope that I was part of that meeting, because I set it up, and Commissioner Behill has that's his subcommittee to move forward with this. So we're very happy that hopefully you can engage that conversation with us. So I'm going to stop, and I guess I'll let Commissioner Behill.
Yeah, if I could weigh in from my perspective, because I spent quite a bit of time at Lano, 30+ years. And obviously I know the Espanola Valley fairly well. So the approach that I would like to advocate, and you were heading in that direction, so let me just explore it a little bit more. So Espanola has resources and capabilities, but Espanola doesn't know how to match those capabilities against what the lab needs, the requirements. So something needs to take place to match the two. The only phrase I can come up with is some type of task force where I think Brian has laid it out very well as far as the top level needs. We need lay down space, we need office space, we need warehouse space, we need that. But what types of needs are those? So City of Espanola through Lou could go start to look at that and start matching that up. And that's kind of like the first step. To me, that would be the first step. The second step is you figure out, okay, how can we, is it possible to make this work? You know, what's that? How far do you have to leap across that valley of death? You know, is it really far or we can do? So once you can get that, then you can start working on packaging proposals, or at least considering, or at least prioritizing what proposals you want to go after. So that would be my suggestion on collaboration, because in my mind, once we get this resolution through City Council, somebody's going to call somebody and say, what do you need? And whoever calls that other person, hopefully that other person has the answer, and the person that called can say, yes, this is what we can do. So I think I want to start, I would probably recommend starting preparing for that conversation on both sides, because I think it will happen. I'd be very surprised if it didn't, because it's such a high visibility type claim politically that somebody's going to take notice of it, and somebody's going to want to at least check the box that a discussion took place. But really, it's capabilities, needs. How do those match up on a multitude of fronts, and what's the opportunities? The other comment I'd like to make is Lionel is very, very focused on federal funding. Get all their money pretty much from Congress and other federal institutions. City of Espanola, very focused on state funding. So in some ways it's a mismatch, but in other ways it's a real opportunity. I know the mayor can speak to Ben Ray Lujan and other congressional folks, and that would make sense. But I know the state also would want to have better relations with the lab. And that's at the core, at least from what I understand, the core of the lab's community outreach, community development, is they want to develop those links that can mutually benefit both. So that would be my contribution to the discussion. But most importantly, what are the needs? What are the capabilities? We really want to start working on that from the City of Espanola standpoint. Northern New Mexico brings quite a number of tools that would be very helpful to the lab, but they will be a part of this discussion, but they will start their own discussion, I believe, through President Valder. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments on that?
No, I think that lines up, I think,
Kind of task
yeah,
force.
violent agreement. I think that's the, what I'm observing. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmidt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that what I'm thinking of right now is, I'm a 40-year employee of Los Alamos National Laboratory. I retired after 40 years. The last 25 years I spent in community relations, working with the communities and looking for opportunities of having the laboratory be a good neighbor into the communities, with the communities. And one of the things that I found out in the early days at the lab was a lack of trust from the communities with the laboratory. There was that was one of our biggest problems. I think the trust is there now. Throughout the years, with the different work that was done by various people, and the mission that was implemented through different directors of the lab in making community relations a very important vital part of the laboratory. But eventually, I think that trust is there now. We continue, I think people realize the benefit of having Los Alamos be part of our communities. We have Mr. David continues in that role and doing an excellent job with the communities and his work with the legislators and so anyway, I think we've any lack of trust that existed, I think, is pretty much gone. I think people realize that the laboratory is there and is a benefit to all of us. So we need to continue that kind of relationship. And I think that we should always look at using the resources that exist at the laboratory that can be used within the communities to improve the communities. We need to, everybody should play that role and try to accomplish that. One of the things that, looking at space here, there are some facilities that we've talked about. The one that I really feel that we really need to look at is the Nambe Mills facility. I know we still have a lease that's in place, but I don't know to what extent. But I
Expires
think,
this year.
Yeah, it expires soon.
well, I think that this body here should go on record to really encourage the city to pursue that opportunity of whatever it would take to look at the feasibility of terminating that lease when it comes due or whenever the time is right. If it can be done sooner than that, then we should look at doing that. Every agreement has an option where we can cancel and start something else. That would be a a lot more of a benefit than what we're getting now from them. And they have been of a benefit to the community, but I think that we have other opportunities, and I see that as the key building.
My understanding, Commissioner Archuleta, is that having a conversation with the mayor, just talking about different things around this, that may be kind of what they're looking at, I think. I can't go on record and speak for them. But I know that the lease is going to be expired and they were looking at maybe one option for whatever they want to use that number, working with this whole opportunity here. So I think that's good news. And I guess we could ask the mayor to update us for the city manager.
We're not taking
But you make
any
a good
action.
point. Yeah, we're not
tonight,
taking any action.
But I would hope that we pursue a statement from this commission to the governing body to
Yeah, and actually, Floyd, if I could add to that, I really like the idea of a statement, but I would even go farther and just say, let's get a couple of folks on a bit of a task force to interact with Lano or representation from Lano on this idea of needs versus abilities and see where that ends up. I agree with Floyd that now Bell Mills gotta be near the top, if not at the top. But I also like what Brian's saying is look at it as a global type of opportunities, instead of opportunities, and then pick the best one. Because my experience at Atlanta is you get something that's successful, people want to go back to that formula over and over again. So
and besides that, we have other buildings up there. And looking at my pen, I don't know why or how I ended up with this fluor pen that I must have had it 20 years now. But for some reason I'm using it and I just picked it out of the camera. But anyway, but we have other facilities up there that and there are other possibilities for them. But I think that the priority should be the laboratory and making those facilities available for the laboratory. Because I think there's more benefit
For the city,
for the city and for the community by first looking at the laboratory for the use of those facilities.
Well, I'm gonna note that, and as you know, we can't make decisions, but I'm gonna note and take into consideration everything that's been said today, as well as those recommendations, because I think that we have to be, as Mayor Beal said, we're the thinking tank, and we gotta push it, so we're gonna do that.
Okay.
He wants to use this as a thinking tank, we will do that. Think tank. I don't have any other questions. Did you have anything else to add?
No, thank you for the invitation. I hope it's some value to you.
We appreciate you taking time. I safe travels back. I'm glad you're not that far from this one. You'll want to take about 15 minutes, but we appreciate you coming, and I'm sure we'll have some other discussions, if not with me, with other commissioners here that are kind of taking the lead in those interest areas. But we will, I'm sure, have you come back to talk to the commission and update us.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Brian. And thank you,
Yeah.
Toby,
Thank you,
for having Brian be
Yeah.
here when we're meeting.
No, I'm hoping we can continue a dialogue.
Yes, thank you. So let's move on to the last discussion item. Director Lou Baker, I wanted her to talk about Main Street application. And I don't know if she has anything else that maybe just in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. we can
Absolutely, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission, members of the public. I'm really, really happy that Commissioner, the Honorable Stephanie Garcia Richards was able to join us tonight. What an honor. And then also Mr. Brian DeAndre, thank him very much. We'll send him a thank you card. I know these individuals are very, very busy, especially during the legislature. I just wanted to share with you a couple of things. The Chamber of Commerce is having its gala on Saturday. The city of Espanola purchased a table, and Mayor Vigil asked me to reach out to you and ask you if you'd be interested in going to the gala. It's at the OK Casino Ballroom. And if you are, get back with me and let me know.
I bought tickets. Individual tickets.
Do you have tickets? Okay. So if you're interested in going, just let me know, and then I'll get you the tickets to you so that you can sit at the City of Espanola table. Next thing, the City of Espanola is, I'm really excited. My role with the City of Espanola is Community Development Coordinator, which means economic development. So I've been serving a dual role as Interim Planning Director. And so one of the things that I was able to do is reach out to the Santa Fe Film Festival, and the City of Espanola is going to be a major sponsor of the Santa Fe Film Festival. And so one of the things that's going to happen is it's from February the 17th, is opening day at the film festival, till the 26th. If you need passes, or if you would like to go to the website, the Santa Fe Film Festival website, look at some of the really good films that they have. And if you want a pass, let me know, I'll get you a pass.
And what dates are those?
So the 17th through the 26th.
Okay.
That's for this month.
Yes. And so the City of Espanola will, everybody's gonna have a lanyard with the City of Espanola hanging around their neck for 10 days. And so I will be working very closely, creating our film page for the city, because this lanyard states that we have a film office, so I'll be working with, and here's more if you want more. Thank you, you're welcome. It's a good opportunity to promote the city. Last year we had the curse in town. Between the Community Development Office and the Fire Department and the Police Department, the City of Espanola raised close to about $140,000 from the film, The Curse. We used that money to pay for the retail coach, these lanyards, some other economic development initiatives. So that money was very, very helpful, and I'm really excited about being included at the Santa Fe Film Festival.
Where does it take place?
It's usually, they have it all over town, different places. Just what I can do is I'll send you the link. I'll send everyone on the commission a link.
The theater by Tomasitas, the
Yeah.
small theater.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lansing.
No, not the Lansing.
I'm not.
It's-
Yeah, by the Jean Cocteau.
Yeah.
Oh, that one,
Shut
yes,
up.
yes, that.
Theater, and then they
Yes.
have some down in the plaza at the Scottish Rite. It's a really
Oh,
good
it's just different
opportunity.
places. And they have different films that they're showing.
Different films, independent films, and it's a real good opportunity to get out there and promote the city of Espanola as a place for these producers to make films. Also, the city of Espanola reached out to Northern New Mexico Community College and the office of the Honorable President Valderas. They agreed to partner with us. So the city of Espanola is going to host the ULI Housing Summit on April the 21st. ULI is an acronym for Urban Land Institute. There was a housing summit last fall in Albuquerque at the Hotel Albuquerque, and it was very well attended. And so having it here in the city of Espanola is a great opportunity. It's a one-day event to have people come into the city, spend money at our gas stations, restaurants and whatnot. But also the housing summit will be geared toward the needs that we have in our area in regards to housing and bringing contractors, architects, everyone that's involved to the table to talk about housing. So that would be on April the 21st at the college, at the event center at the college. Miss Amy got back with me on that. Miss Amy Pena is the executive administrative assistant to the Honorable Hector Valderas. And as that information starts to unfold, I'll definitely get it to you.
Is there gonna be a limited, the event center's not very big.
Excuse me?
The event center, it holds a lot of people, but I mean, maybe.
The event center, actually, when I reached out to them, I asked if we could use the Nick Salazar Center for the Arts, so that we could use that.
That would be better.
But, you know,
They're not.
we're still in the infancy of this, so it's gonna be at Northern. So, but as it
I submitted
unfolds,
to the event center, I would encourage, I know it's hard, they charge, I don't know what you guys are doing, but anyway, if I had my druthers, I would say do it at the theater, at the Nick Salazar, because it holds a lot of people.
yeah,
If you wanna bring a lot of people, if you're gonna bring the number that can fit into the event center, that's not attracting people.
okay. I'll check with Amy on that and then, so I told you about the Chamber of Commerce. A shout out to the Chamber of Commerce. I work very closely with them. Our chair, the president of the chamber is Mr. Leo Valdez.
Yes.
The executive director is Tilly Nichols and her administrative assistant is Miss Liz Garcia. Awesome group of folks. They meet here. They have their meetings here. And so what I'll do is I'll let you know when they have their meetings. I think it's the third Wednesday of every month. They meet in this chamber, and it's a good opportunity to work with our small businesses in town. And then also, you brought it up, Commissioner Archuleta, the RDC sent out a flyer about this connectivity at the Rolls Event Center in Abiquiu. I will be attending that. I believe that's on the 23rd of this month.
That's what again?
That's gonna be on the 23rd. It's from 8:30 a.m. to noon at the Abiquiu Rural Event Center.
Uh-huh.
It's the RDC put a really good program
Oh, you
together.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very nice program. I'm really impressed that they did this. This is really nice. And I printed out that flyer for you and I sent everyone that email also.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And then thank you very much for sharing the Workforce Development Conference today and tomorrow. I really want to invite you to the Espanola Day at the Roundhouse. If any of you folks know of anyone that would like to set up a table and promote your small business or your agency and hand out information, please get with me or with Mr. Jeremy Maestas and reserve a table space. And then last but not least, Madam Chair, I really don't have anything to share with you on Main Street. I kind of dropped the ball on that. So if it's possible, Madam Chair, I would like to give you an update at our next meeting, if that's fine with you,
That's
okay?
fine, that works.
It's the planning department, for you folks that don't know, we're not even a skeleton crew anymore. We're the Holy Ghost. It's between Vince and myself, and then we have Mr. Matthew Torres that's covering for Mr. Armando, who is out on leave. But Vince has really stepped up to the plate, and I'm really proud of him, and I encourage him, and I couldn't do this without Vince. So Vince is he's just been a pleasure to work with. Miss Emma helping him, she's been coaching him and teaching him and mentoring him the IT stuff with Zoom and YouTube and all that stuff, so that we can have these meetings available online. And other than that, I am open to any questions.
Lily, you had, I think you had sent this out electronically, correct?
Yes, I did, yes,
Correct. I
yes.
gotta go back and.
yes. I sent that out, and then I also sent out the RDC flyer from Val Alonso, the Regional Development Corporation Connectivity Event in Abacus. I like to share everything, and it's like, there's that big button at the top of the screen, and if you think I fill your mailbox with too much stuff, just hit delete, just get rid of it. And
Swipe it.
yeah, just get rid of it, but I like it for everyone to know everything that's going on. Because sometimes I don't have an opportunity to really dwell into it. So if anybody has time and you're like, wow, this is really cool, get back to me, and then I'll really focus on it. But I think if we have more eyes on something, somebody will bring it to my attention, or we can all benefit from it. So by sharing information.
Receiving that.
Yeah, so I'm always,
Thank you.
And we know you're short staffed, so thank you all.
oh, it's
for-
just, it's a
I hope
lot.
you get the staff soon.
Yes, I hope so too.
Light a fire.
And then we have a public meeting tomorrow with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And there are some 4 items on the agenda, and Mr. Maldonado writes staff reports. I'm really proud of him. There's one item on the agenda that is very controversial. So this will be postponed until the 23rd. Because it's a very, very controversial project. It is economic development in that it has, it provides jobs for the community, gross receipts tax for the community, and fuel tax for the community. But it is a nuisance to the neighbors. So basically what it is in a nutshell is the Bartolomé Sanchez land grant is 430 acres. And out of that 430 acres, they lease approximately about 130 acres to a designated operator to do sand and gravel natural resource extraction right up here off of 84 to 85. Well, there are neighbors that surround that area, and there's just there hasn't been a real good dust mitigation plan, and the neighbors are having to deal with all that dust and traffic. And so the applicant is coming back for a special use permit, because special use permits can be issued from anywhere from a year to 5 years. It depends on the commission, what their decision is in regards to issuing that special use permit. So it's time for them for the applicant to come back and get that. But it's it was just too much to have tomorrow night in addition to the other 3 cases. So it was in everyone's best decision to have just this case by itself at a public hearing. So that's going to be on the 23rd. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Chair, if I may, Lou, and you sent out a notice for us to participate in a Zoom meeting with the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned early on. I couldn't get on it.
Yeah,
RDC.
No, it was the one I just.
That was in Northern Pueblos.
Northern Pueblos.
That was Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
That was this past Monday at 10. I sat in on that meeting.
and that's the one that they want us to look at the plan and put in comments before,
Yeah.
not through February, and then they'll have their meeting in March. And I need to look at the plan, because I want to see how it affects anything here.
Madam Chair, I believe I sent everyone that plan, the draft plan. Everyone should have had that. If you don't have the capacity to print out the hard copy, just let me know. Mr. Baldonado will print it out for you, or I'll print it out, and you're welcome to just pick it up here at the front counter. It's a draft. but it does talk about transportation in this region. There is Taos County, Santa Fe County, Los Alamos County, and Rio Rico County.
Well, Lou, could you go ahead and just do that?
Do you want me to do
Yes,
something?
please.
I can print some out for you right now before you leave.
I'm going through it to my iPad and my, you know, my.
I'll go print some out before you leave.
I'm not sure, yeah, I'd be interested in that too, but I think what I was asking about was the project over at McCurdy. The one that involves our
Yeah,
subdivision there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the neighbors are coming to me and asking me about it. And I don't know, but I think the way it was described on the announcement doesn't really talk about McCurdy. It talks about 68, State Route 68, Joe.
I sat in that Zoom meeting, and there was
did
a
you
lot of.
introduce yourself for the
Okay, my name is Joe Salazar, SALAZAR,
planning and zoning?
Planning and Zoning Commissioner. I sat in the Zoom meeting, there was only about 14 participants in the whole thing. And in my best explanation of this, Department of Transportation did not do a good job in the presentation. They assumed that the charter school and the ministry were the same entity. That was a big mistake.
Right.
And they were not even aware of a project that the ministry is gonna be trying to put into your area. And, you know, they talked that they can't widen the road there because of the historical site buildings that are located there. So the traffic going from, let's say, from Fairview Lane all the way through to to where the church is at.
Yeah.
Thing. You know, that road can be widened in many places because of, you know, historical sites that are there.
Right.
And so then they talk about traffic, and then they talk about, well, you notice what happens when school goes through there. They have people entering through McCurdy Road early in the morning or in the middle of the afternoon. You know, they didn't talk about any safety issues. If there's an emergency vehicle that needs to get there, whether it be a fire truck, a police truck, or an ambulance, you know, they have no plan for that. Yet they want to put a bicycle lane in there, like where? You know, you can barely get two cars to go by there. So, you know, they did a presentation for us, planning and zoning, when Mr. Hussein was still with us. And, you know, I personally had a lot of questions, and I know that there was others that had a lot of questions, but it was just a presentation, so we could not ask a question. But then when the Department of Transportation did the presentation, I was out about, and I met a lot of your neighbors, and they were just totally upset with, you know, what their plan was, you know, so.
But they haven't been included.
Right,
In a
exactly.
lot of these meetings.
Nobody's talked to them. There's a gentleman that from right across from the Hoya Road, you know. I don't want to mention his name, but he and I had a long conversation about this, him and his son. And he says, you know, it's ridiculous, you know, they don't even ask us, you know, we're the ones that are going to be affected the most. But yet they're talking to, you know, to charter school. Well, they don't, I mean, to them, it doesn't, look, we live here. And so I gather that's a type of issue you're getting from neighbors.
Well, somehow, we would like to be included in any future meetings. So if Lou, if you can.
Sure.
Well, they plan to come plan and zoning and then come in and ask, you know, because they gotta come before us before they can, you know, develop. But, you know, I would suggest that you have all the communities fill up the room.
They're very, very active. We have a neighborhood watch program, and we have meetings all the time, and they're very well attended. And,
Right.
and this is something that always comes up at these meetings. But
Is it gonna be on the agenda soon for planning? and zoning?
Well, we don't know yet. They're still working on it, the
Yes.
developer.
I'll reach out to the developer. I have an email sitting in my inbox in regards to this. And what I'll do is I'll reach out to them. First and foremost, I need to go to DRT. So the development review team needs,
Yeah.
we all need to sit down and we need to look at it before it even
Yeah.
comes to the body.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, you know, I can't talk more about it because then I'd be in conflict, but that's all I can say is that The one thing is that the Department of Transportation wasn't even aware of this. In their conversation,
So now's the time. to get
So-
the-
There's a lot going on there, Commissioner. I mean, I've been meeting with developers. So you have the McCurdy project. You have the Lucero project, 11 acres. You have Mr. Willie Attention with 21 acres. I mean, there's gonna be some serious development going on in that neighborhood, that little corridor there.
So the thing with really intensive progressing
Yes,
also?
yes, that's progressing.
That's
The
gonna be-
Lucero family with, I think they're gonna have like 240 units. They're looking at 240 units there.
Wow.
So it's
Infrastructure.
it's a lot,
Yeah, it
there's
is.
a lot of development going on in that corridor.
Well, anything else?
No, I'm, Madam Chair, thank you all very much. Just one final thing, like I stated, Mr. Armando, is out and I have a get well card. Thank you, David.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
If you know Armando and you would just like to say get well to Armando, you're welcome to sign his get well card. If you don't, that's fine too. And I yield to Madam Chair.
So thank you, Director Baker, and I think because we can't take action, I'll just move down to announcing that our next regular meeting is Wednesday, March 8th. We do not have a work session this month. And I then say the meeting is adjourned at 7:45.